morning. Welcome to the Thurston County Board of County Commissioners Agenda Setting Work Session for Tuesday, January 30th, 2024. It is 9:21 a.m. My name is Ty Mentor, Chair of the Board. We also have Vice Chair Commissioner Wayne Fournier, Commissioner Gary Edwards, Commissioner Carolina Mejia, and Commissioner Emily Klaus, along with the Interim County Manager Robin Campbell and Assistant County Manager Rob Gelder. For public virtual attendance, you may follow along on the Thurston County YouTube channel. We're scheduled till 12:15. Probably take a break partway through. Heads up at around 10:25. I will pass the baton to the Vice Chair. I have to go upstairs and be sworn in to the Sentencing Guideline Commission by the Senate, some Senate committee virtually. So hopefully that won't take too long. And then I'll be back later in the morning. The first item this morning is to review the draft agenda for the meeting this afternoon at 2 p.m. So we'll start there. That meeting will be called to order at 2 p.m. Pledge of Allegiance to be led by Commissioner Edwards. Review and approval of the agenda, and then opportunity for the public to address the board. County manager's update. Any items in it? All of that.
I have an update. I will be announcing the new board schedule this afternoon, letting the public know that your board meetings beginning February 1st will go to every other week on the 1st, 3rd, and 5th Tuesday of the month. That your work sessions will be Monday morning and during the day on Wednesday. Check-in and pending decisions will be Monday afternoons, and that you will have no scheduled board meetings on Thursdays and Fridays. Seemed like a good time to just announce the new schedule.
Is there a place that the new schedule will be posted?
We can definitely post the schedule online.
I think it's going to be hard for people to comprehend verbally.
I agree.
Seeing it laid out might be easier.
Yep.
Any questions for the county manager? Okay. Then the next item will be to look at the consent agenda, and we only have one. It's 3A, Community Planning and Economic Development, the award funds to Heritage Grant Program applicants.
This item is following board briefing on December 13th and January 9th, where the board gave directions to award all grants as requested for the Heritage Grant program. So this will give awards that total $43,874 to the City of Olympia, the Gates Community Club, the Olympia Historic Society, Bigelow House Museum, the Tumwater Foundation, the City of Tenino, and Window Seat Media. And we have Jeremy, I'm looking around, Jeremy's here if the board has any questions.
These are just consistent with what we've already...
Your annual grant award.
Taken. Okay. Any questions from board members? Okay, then that'll take us to item 4A, Central Services, lease amendment extension between Thurston County and TCOM 911.
TCOM 911 leases space in a county-owned facility on Pacific Avenue, almost across the street from where we are today. This lease renewal is for, looks like 5 years, and the square footage for TCOM's been in this building for quite some time. Their square footage in the new lease is increasing from 9,179 square feet to 10,520 square feet. Their monthly payment is increasing from $15,970 to $16,510 in 2024 and $16,906 in 25, and future years will be based on internal service rates. This motion authorizes the Central Services Director to sign the lease amendment.
Any questions on the TCOM lease? Yes, Commissioner Mejia.
I'm just wondering, this is a county-owned facility, have we talked to them about maybe purchasing it?
We could certainly have that conversation. TCOM
Is there
911.
an interest for the county to own this building or own this facility?
Well, we do share the building. They do not lease the entire building. Medic One has offices there, and it is a central location in the county to distribute necessary equipment and goods to our emergency responders. So if the county were to sell the building, which is absolutely something that you could consider, then we would need to either lease space back from TCOM 911, or we would need to find a new location for Medic One.
Or Medic One would lease from TCOM.
That was my first,
Did
yes.
you already say that?
Yes,
Oh,
that's okay.
all right.
Yeah, so you could consider it. It's been, I don't know that an offer has been made or that we've ever had that conversation, but I have put the option before prior boards who were not interested in selling the building.
Okay, I just kind of wanted to at least have a little bit of context behind that as well. So thank you.
Do we generate like revenue or is it just a wash?
No, we bill them what our expenses are.
Okay, hearing nothing further on 4A, let's go to 4B, change order number 3 to design build contract for Thurston County infrastructure upgrades.
So this is the contract for the project at the courthouse, buildings 1 through 7. The board had a briefing on the project status on January 24th. This is a design build contract, and it's awarded in phases. Phase 1 is for design, phase 2 is construction. Each phase is broken down into parts. In June of last year, the board awarded $1.5 million to start work on design. In December, $145,000 was added, and this is the final phase of design. With this award, the company that we're working with, the M.A. Mortensen Company, would complete the design work, and we would be prepared then to move to construction. The total amount that would include this motion before you would be $1.5 million for design, and we are currently on track with this project. Rick and Tom are here to answer any questions you may have.
Questions?
I guess my concern goes all the way back to the councilmatic process of going out for the $50 million bond. I had voted against that when that happened, and I'm not convinced yet that the reissue is covered, because by the time we pay this back, it's going to be about $100 million. And I'm really curious about the delay of the state audit, that we've had a couple delays now. And one of my bigger concerns has always been that utilizing REIT, it only has to do with sales, with REIT sales within the unincorporated area of the county. And this building is to be used for all the citizens in the county. And I just think it's a fairness issue that if one segment of our county is going to be paying for this, even though a lot of these REIT sales that generate that fund, real estate excise tax, are brought in from an out-of-area purchaser possibly. I'm just not there yet that we should only be doing this in the unincorporated area. So just a long-standing concern of mine, and I want to remain consistent, so I just point that out. Thank you. And I would like to point out that staff has done a good job on putting this whole thing together and moving it forward, and this has no reflection on the staff's job at all. I'd like to point that out, so thank you.
Anything else from board members?
I'm just curious, so your position would be that REIT funds could only be used on projects that are in unincorporated Thurston County, and we cannot collect REIT funds from within incorporated?
Well-
But these funds are to be used on capital projects anywhere we see fit, correct?
I'm not sure about that. The concern is paying back the bond out of REIT funds has been questioned. Now I see that our audit has been delayed a couple of times now and I don't know anything about that, so it's hard for me to assess what the problem is. But my concern has been that when a home is sold in the unincorporated area of Thurston County, it generates the REIT fund. And we're missing out on one half of the population. The population of the county is roughly 300,000. About half live in the unincorporated area, half live in incorporated areas. Those individuals in the incorporated area are not paying towards, those transactions are not paying towards that REIT fund that in turn is paying off the bond, so.
Yeah, their REIT funds go into the respective cities they live in.
Yes, that goes
towards the
elsewhere.
capital projects that people in unincorporated Thurston County also benefit from when they visit the cities. So there's,
That's possible.
Yeah.
I'm not arguing that. You know, it's just that we're doing a county-wide project for all of the citizens of Thurston County. And we don't get adequate funding from the state. That goes back to the 85% split on sales tax. But here we are now burdening the unincorporated folks with this particular $100 million bill. And all the citizens in the county are benefiting from this new project that we're putting together.
That's a different question. That's not about how to use the money we are getting. That's just a beef that we're not getting additional money from the incorporated.
but I
funds. We
voted
still have to use the money that we get, and we still have to use it on capital projects. And those capital projects largely have to be in the county seat, which is incorporated area. So we don't really have any choice but to use the REIT on projects like this, even though you have an additional argument that you think we should be getting an additional set of revenues from incorporated taxpayers.
Yes, that's my concern.
Well, that's fair. That's not that's not how I ever totally understood your objection, but I understand it now.
Okay, thank you.
Very good. Anything else from commissioners? Okay. Thank you, guys. 5A is Thurston County Fire Protection District 12 annexation.
This item is interesting and one that I had not seen before. RCW 5204011 governs annexation for fire districts by petition of landowners. Landowner in an area that is not currently included in a fire district. The owner filed a petition in March of 2021. The fire department held a public hearing in May of 2021, sent the petition to the Boundary Review Board. The Boundary Review Board didn't issue a decision until June of 2023. Which went back to the fire district to adopt a resolution, which they did in October of 2023. They have now filed that resolution, and the Board of County Commissioners by law must take a final action to approve the annexation of this parcel into the fire district. So this has been long in the making since the landowner filed the petition. This will improve their ability to get fire insurance on their property, and the board's the last step. So we will try to answer questions, but this is something that, quite frankly, I had not seen before.
Commissioner Edwards.
I believe this is just a case of fixing government oversight, and this will be beneficial to the fire district as well as revenue coming in. So that's
Yeah.
why I'm in favor of it.
I think we talked about it last meeting just fine.
Any other questions from board? I have nothing, so we'll move on. 6A, Community Planning Economic Development Shoreline Master Program Implementation Grant Contract Approval.
This item, if authorized, will allow the county to accept a grant from the Department of Ecology to develop a toolkit that will be used by citizens who are completing projects under the Shoreline Master Plan. The toolkit will include how-to videos, online training, FAQs, and other tools that will be useful for citizens. And to build the toolkit, while we wait for the ecology approval of the code amendment that the board has authorized, we will solicit input from the public as we develop this tool. And who do we have? Andrew is here to answer any questions that you may have.
I don't see or hear any. We touched on this one last week. Thank you, Henry.
Thank you to staff for a good job putting it together, finally getting it through.
Commissioner Klaus, go ahead.
Thank you. Just to refresh my memory on this, what kind of tools are we considering here? Would this be for like community members who want to start some sort of project, and this toolkit would give them the information they need to like get permits, or for breaking ground on projects, or what kind of toolkit are we talking about here?
Thank you for the question. Andy DeFovis, Senior Planner with Community Planning. That is one aspect that the toolkit will address. It's really informational materials that help people understand what is in the Shoreline Master Program, what are the requirements, what kind of activities require a permit, what sort of things do not need a permit, really trying to interpret, a very complex regulatory document and break it down into various pieces that are of interest. If you've got a specific project, or there will be some information that will help development services staff kind of go through a checklist of, I'm reviewing a project that's subject to the master program. Here are all the things I need to look at. Here are all the rules that apply, and interpreting all of those materials.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. Okay, item 6B, also under CPED, is Thurston 2045 Interagency Agreement with Washington Department of Commerce for Periodic Update Grant.
Items 6B, C, and D are all related. Under item B, this is a grant from the Washington State Department of Commerce in the amount of $700,000 for the update to the county's comprehensive plan. The money will be used to hire consultants, also for community outreach and staff costs. Item C is also a grant contract from the Washington State Department of Commerce to update the comprehensive plan. Item C is $300,000 specifically for the new requirement of the climate element. And then item D, which I'll talk more about in a moment, spends the money that we receive in B and C.
Questions on, is that sufficient overview of all three items? Any questions on all three, any of the three items, B, C, or D?
That's sufficient overview on all three of them as far as I'm concerned. We've discussed this.
Okay, seeing nothing?
Ashley needs some money to spend.
Yes, she does.
Thank you, Ashley.
Definitely. Okay, public defense is up next, 7A, approval of a funding agreement with Washington State Office of Public Defense SPAR program.
This is $150,000 from the state of Washington's Office of Public Defense. This will enable our public defenders to provide counsel for indigent clients who are charged with simple possession or public use offenses. The money only goes through June of '24, but we do expect additional funding in the future, and looking for, I don't see,
Patrick?
no, I don't see Patrick, but I do see Linda online. But we can try to answer your questions if you have any.
We had a pretty good
I think so.
discussion last week, but go ahead, Commissioner Edwards.
No, that's what I was gonna say. We covered this last week. It really makes sense that, and the states, it's something to do with the budget cycle is why.
Fiscal year, their fiscal
Yeah,
year
their
ends on
physical
June
year is a
30,
little different
so.
than ours.
Yep.
And Patrick's got it all figured out.
Yeah, seemed like it. Okay, I don't see any other questions, so we'll get on 7A. We'll go to 8A, Public Health and Social Services, Capital Region ESD 113 contract.
Two divisions within Public Health and Social Services, Community Wellness and the Disease Control and Prevention Division are collaborating with school districts and community partners to provide programs and policies that are intended to reduce tobacco use, cannabis use, and vaping amongst youth. So this contract is with the ESD for the county to provide services and authorizes the department director to sign the contract. And again, we did discuss this last week.
Gretchen, anything you wanted to add?
No, I think Robin covered it really well. Thank you.
Board? Commissioner Edwards?
Just that we've had this contract for many years, as far as I know. And I've never heard any controversy or any problem with this. And I don't know if Gretchen ran that the whole time or not, but I'll give her credit. Thank you.
Thank you. I have to definitely share the credit. Kateri Wimsett does an amazing job with this work, and Chris Hawkins previously oversaw it when he was with the county. So yeah, it's a great team. And I think we're building really important partnerships in the community with it.
Any other questions, comments from the board? Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, that takes us to the end of this afternoon's proposed agenda. After we do our standing items, we will adjourn. And then next up for this morning is to review the proposed agenda for next Tuesday, February 6th. That meeting called to order at 2 p.m. and Pledge of Allegiance to be led by Commissioner Klaus. Approval of agenda, opportunity for public to address the board, county manager update.
No updates at this time, although I will most likely announce again next week that we are moving to board meetings every other week, and so that's gonna just be very new to people.
Okay. Consent items 3A through 3D. 3A is Public Works, Board Write-Off of 2023 Uncollectible Public Works Department Accounts Receivable.
So county policy requires offices and departments to analyze any receivable debt and to write off debt that is considered not collectible. Public Works in their utilities departments have 25 accounts that were delinquent. Last activity on these accounts were in 2015, 2016, and 2017. The statute of limitations to collect on these accounts have run out. Approximately half the debt was from companies that are now defunct, and the amount to write off $2,284.42 represents 0.2% of all receivables for the county's utilities, and that's a pretty good collection rate. So the board would authorize Public Works to write off the uncollectible debt. And we have Teresa Woolen on the screen, who can answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions for Teresa? Yep, Commissioner.
I don't know, I mean, this really isn't relevant, but the public should know that, I don't know what the overall budget is for Public Works, but it's a lot. Do you know offhand? What, I mean, it's many millions of dollars.
I don't offhand. Teresa, what's the budget for utilities in Public Works?
Well, the average revenue collected is 2.3 million, so
So,
it's quite.
I don't know.
Of course, some of
That
the-
almost, that 0.2 almost
Right.
sounds too much
High,
to
yeah.
me,
Yeah.
so it's
It's
such a
very good rate.
minor amount, and for them to keep track of that type of minutia is a problem, so thanks for all you do, and you do it well, obviously.
Thank you.
Okay, very good. 3B is an auditor.
Commissioner Messer?
Sorry, yep, go ahead, Commissioner Mejia.
Hey, I was wondering, going back to the Pledge of Allegiance, if I could do it next week, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
3B auditor voucher list for the week of January 1st.
So 3B, C, and D are all approval of the voucher list. These are payments that were made by the county that the board has final approval. And none of these voucher lists include any items for tenant improvements at the atrium.
Thank you.
Okay, if there's no questions on those items, we'll just hop right to 4A. Commissioner's Office Resolution to update membership and charter of the Thurston County Law and Justice Council.
Oh, yeah, Leah is
Real
here.
attendance here.
Okay, so, this item is a renewal of the charter for the Thurston County Law and Justice Council. The council is required by RCW, 7209-300, which specifies certain members of the council. The county has chosen to add additional members, who are optional. And I believe those include the coroner, commissioner, tribes, and community members. The Law and Justice Council met on January 18th and reviewed the charter, and by unanimous vote, recommended approval to the Board of County Commissioners. They added 3 new members. They added new members representing tribes, the diversity, equity, and inclusion member, and the criminal justice program manager. So Leah is here to answer any questions that you may have about the charter.
And I just want to add, there's one more thing in the charter as well. In addition to the members, we also are adding term limits for our community-based members. So most of the boards and commissions do have term limits for those positions. When we added those positions several years ago, we did not add term limits at that time. So both people from community-based organizations have been on the council for more than 3 years now. So we've added term limits of 3 years. And if the board chooses to approve the new charter, we would go out and have the application process again for those positions to ensure that we're continually doing that work and engaging those in the community.
As far, say community members, is it just community members? Or you mentioned they're
It's-
parts of organizations. Is there any requirement that the community members are affiliated with something, or is it just community members? of Thurston
Community-based organizations. So currently, the 2 members that we have, one is from Civil Survival, and she has lived experience. And the other is from,
Justice Not Jail.
yeah, Justice Not Jails, which is a community-based organization that does outreach work.
So is there a requirement in the agreement that they have some specific affiliation or something, or is it just
It's not.
community members?
It's just a representative of community-based organizations.
Community-based organizations, okay, thank you.
And is there a process in place should the group obviously think super highly of one or so, and there's a process that they could be renominated or reappointed as well, if it worked out that way? I mean, sometimes we're trying to get fresh blood in, but, okay, so we can go either way.
Yeah, I see this working as the typical application process that we would go through for any of the other boards and commissions. So we'll accept those applications, and then we would go through the same process that all of the other.
Just
So when
for
you say-
those two community
Yeah,
members.
just for the
though,
two community
because
members.
all of the other members are representing organizations who would send their representative to the council.
So when you say term limit, you actually don't mean term, you mean we're setting a term.
Yes.
For the
Seat.
appointment.
Yes.
Not a
of-
limit, like you can only serve one term. or you can only
Correct.
serve two
My
terms. That's what I
apologies.
think of a term limit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My
But there is no
apologies.
term at all. It's just, right now, it's just ongoing.
Yeah, it's just ongoing, but we're setting a 3-year so that there's a 3-year cycle. But yes, to what Robin said, these two positions are actually BOCC appointments, whereas the rest of the positions on the council are not. So it would be the typical application process where those applications come to the clerk, are reviewed, and we go through that full process, and then they are approved and appointed by the board.
How many members will this bring us to?
I would have to go back and count.
47.
That, honestly, is how it feels.
It's around there.
It is a large group.
Probably. It's a
It
big
is a
one.
large group. I want to say probably 20-ish at least.
At least.
Yeah.
I advocated for making corresponding reductions to the ads. I think the ads make sense, but we have some other folks on there that I'm not sure. I think their connection's more tenuous, but like I say, obviously the council didn't take that up, so it's fine. I don't oppose these additions, but it might be something to just think about. My concern was always that I really wanted Law and Justice Council to be like a powerhouse organ where all the jurisdictions felt an equal stake, and I felt it was too county heavy, and that dissipated that sense that it was everybody's organization, not just the county's organization that we invite people to. So having like the county manager, the public health director, all these like sort of other county officials in there, when they don't have corresponding analogs in the cities, I felt was imbalanced.
So I will say that the county manager is not a member of the council. The optional members on the council are the county coroner, a county commissioner.
I remember voting, Ramiro wanted to be on it, and I was new and I didn't feel like I could, and I remember voting to make the county manager a member in 2019.
Somehow that never got added to the charter.
Yeah, the most recent version of the charter I had when I came on board did not include the county manager as a position, though I'm happy to look into that. As far as I've been aware, the county manager has been just kind of an informational person that comes and attends.
Not a voting member.
That's fine, I specifically remember being kind of like, not sure about that
Okay.
one, and.
I appreciate that, but somehow it never got added in.
Very good. Go ahead, Commissioner Edwards.
But if you, as a longtime member, feel that would be beneficial,
Commissioner
think we-
Klaus is our representative now, but
She is.
that was something that, this proposal came up at the end of 2023. And I remember bringing it up at the very last meeting, and then they
Right.
took action last meeting, which is fine. I'd say it's,
I don't know, I mean, if you've always thought that ought to be that way,
Yeah.
and you've been on there, Commissioner Klaus, granted, she's there now, but she probably doesn't have a good understanding, the same as you would,
Yeah.
of many years on that council. So I'm gonna ask you, if you think the county manager ought to be on there, I think that we ought to talk about that.
I think he was saying just the opposite.
Right.
Yeah, I'm saying I didn't want the county manager on there.
Oh, okay, good enough. That's what I was,
I'm sure
I
that'd
didn't
be a
pick
great
up on that.
conversation for you and Commissioner Cloud.
Yeah, that's why I'm bringing this up, just
Okay.
because Commissioner Klaus can hear my point of view, and as she goes on and, you know, and if this comes up again or whatever, she has my 2 cents.
So there was a interesting conversation at the council, about removing, for example, the proposal was to remove the representative from JBLM. They don't send anyone, they're not participating, but members of the council felt quite strongly that instead of removing that role, that we instead need to reach out to JBLM and ask them to send someone. So the council did not seem interested in removing anyone. And again, very few of the members are actually optional. The community members, the coroner, the county commissioner is optional. The tribal members are optional. And then the members that you're just adding with this action, the DEI and the Criminal Justice Program Manager are not required by law, but pretty much everyone else is.
It brings it to 37 members.
37.
Oh, I really
California
underestimated.
was closer. And so the DEI slot, is it a member of our council or is it our program manager?
So the way that that looks right now is the way that I've written it and envisioned this being is that it will go out as an offer to the Racial Equity Council as this, there is no stipend provided for your participation in this, but if there is a member of the council who would like to take this seat, they are welcome to do so. If no member of the council chooses to take the seat on the Law and Justice Council, then by default, it would go to DV or whoever is the Racial Equity Program Manager.
Okay. Any other questions?
I think, well, I'd just say 37 members on a committee is too many, but.
It's
There are
it's
slots
very-
that have never been, like, I've never seen, in my 5 years, I've never seen a tribal representative. JBLM, I've never seen that. You know, so there's a lot of like empty seats. If they wanted to, I think it's great. That would be what I'm looking for, is to broaden out into the broader community. So I don't want to remove those seats necessarily.
It is
You
a.
have those folks not attending, and then you have all the county folks are attending, and it always kind of felt a little.
And it is hard because so much of the work we do, right, is county centric. And so we need all those people at the table, but then we also do want the voices of the cities and the tribes. And so for addition, that third tribal member that we would be adding is just to ensure that we have all 3 tribes represented for Thurston County. Previously, it was just 2 of them. So we're adding the third to come into alignment with that. And it is a very large group, but law and justice is a very large field. And so I'm happy to continue facilitating and navigating our 37-person council.
I think that's also the strategy behind doing sort of the strategic plan and so that there's actually more perception of value added, so that there's actually work to be done as opposed to just having talking heads, and then you don't get the level of involvement and participation that you really hope for.
Yeah, when I first joined the council and the county in July of 2021, the meetings were entirely informational, which didn't really serve much of a purpose. So we finished our strategic plan for the next 2 years at the end of 2023 and are putting that into place, of course, now starting in 2024. And that's part of adding my position to the council, is I do so much work for it and with it, but we don't have that position on the council. So adding me as an official member is kind of just the semantics of I do all of the work and facilitation for it, but we didn't have that seat before, so it's kind of just a detail. But the hope with the strategic plan is to move us towards using that very large group to really make a difference in what we're doing here with law and justice versus being informational.
There was also a recognition that some organizations do not send a representative, but no one knows when the last time is that someone reached out to those organizations. So that's something else that the council is going to do, reach out to the various organizations who have not been sending a rep and ask them to please appoint someone and get involved.
Okay, thank you, Leah.
Thank you.
Next item is 5A, Community Planning and Economic Development, Interagency Agreement between Washington State University and Thurston County.
This is the annual agreement that Thurston County enters into with the Washington State University to provide WSU extension services within the county. These services include support of agriculture, water resources, the 4-H youth program, the Master Gardener, Master Composter, and Master Recycler programs, and nutrition education, which is especially important for the county citizens who use SNAP. The county and WSU share the costs of these programs. So under this agreement, the county's share would, I think this is the county share, not WSU, but we can get some clarity on that, is $172,715 for this year. And I'd be happy to try to, there's Josh, he's giving me a thumbs up. But we'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Go ahead, I'll follow you.
You say that's costing the county $172,000.
Is that the county share or is that WSU share? That's what I thought.
And is it out of the general fund?
It is. Most of it's out of the general fund. We have a agreement to pay for some of it from the solid waste fund,
That's
right?
correct. Yep, so Assistant County Manager did a great job. Joshua Cummings, Community Planning and Economic Development Director. So as CPED is the role of the connector between WSU Extension and the county, we bring forward these agreements. And so this MOA is a roll-up of multiple agreements that WSU has with the county. In the past, you would receive agreements from Public Health, from Public Works, and CPED. We rolled all those up into this MOA, and so that $172,000 is the county's total with those multiple programs wrapped up into it. And then WSU's share is separate and aside. And so this is an opportunity to balance all that and bring it forth at one time and support the great work of WSU.
Well, I want to support that great work, but I've also always.
It's not all general fund, sorry, there was a question there.
Right, I want to make sure that the general fund is not depleted unnecessarily. So you mentioned public health, for an example.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got foundational public health and making sure we're raising the right food in our community and the gardening aspect. I would guess that could fall under foundational public health. So I am curious what that breakdown is between, a lot of times we do things 60-40, 60 out of the general fund, 40 out of other funds. And if that was the case, I probably wouldn't be asking any questions, but I don't know the answer to that.
So
And if staff does know the answer, then maybe I'll go away. So that's where I'm at.
Staff does know the answer,
Ah,
but
good.
not this staff in particular.
Oh.
And I could definitely bring Stephen Bramwell back next week to provide his input. I do know that WSU pays a larger share than the county for the programmatic pieces, and that it's not all general fund, and that what you're seeing in there was what the board approved in terms of the general fund amount. So we've done, I think, a really nice job working with the budget office to align the MOA to come after the board has approved the general fund budget amount. So that is reflective in there. So all the decisions that you're signing on this MOA, you've essentially already made in the general fund budget conversations and in the different programs through grants from Public Health and Public Works.
I have no doubt or no concern about signing with WSU. I just want to make sure that if possible, maybe we're paying a little too much out of general fund, we just get it out of another fund, but I want to keep the program going. I think the program is very beneficial. I continue to watch with oversight on the general fund.
And so do we, Commissioner, appreciate that. And more than happy to bring Director Stephen Bramwell from WSU to have that conversation. He has been quite judicious in trying to find lots of other money from other places outside of the general fund.
Right, but just even without Stephen, we can provide
Even without
commissioners
Stephen,
with the
we can provide
splits.
that.
Yeah,
Okay, well, I'm for the program, don't get me wrong. I just want to make sure anytime we can lessen the burden on the general fund, we do so. So that's where I'm at. So, thank you. I don't know that you gotta bring Stephen either.
I was just gonna say, wherever the money's coming from, if you've ever seen Stephen's presentation on what the programs provided Thurston County for this amount of money, it's a steal, so really, really good stuff.
Any investment in what Stephen does is worth it. Go Cougs.
Okay,
Anything else? Okay, from the board? Okay, thanks, Josh. Next up is Emergency Services, 6A, Contract for Homeland Security Grant. And we have Ben Miller-Todd, our Emergency Services Director, to give us the overview.
Right, this is a federal pass-through money that comes through the Washington State Military Department in support of Homeland Security Region 3. Region 3 in Washington State includes Grace Harbor, Lewis, Mason, Pacific, and Thurston counties. Thurston County serves as the administrator and the fiduciary agent for this grant. Money will be used for planning, equipment, training, and other activities throughout the region. The funding is available from September 1st of last year through December 31st of 2025 in the total amount of $287,394, and the agreement would be signed by our Director of Emergency Services, who is on the screen and ready to answer any questions that you may have.
Ben, do you have anything you want to throw in before we open it up to questions?
I'll throw in just one item, not to confuse the conversation, but we did put this in our 24-25 budget as a placeholder. I will say that these pass-through funds, we have to anticipate funding in the 24-25 biennial budget development. We actually were granted $76,000 more than what we anticipated. So I just wanted to make you aware that in a future conversation, we're anticipating in 2025 potentially having to do a budget amendment due to the extra funds that were appropriated, just so you're aware.
I think we can find a way to do that.
I don't think you'll have any problem with that, Ben. But I do have one issue, if I might ask. Ben, how much space do you lease over where you're at over there?
I knew you were going to ask me that from an earlier conversation. I do not know the exact square footage, and we, just as a reminder, this is owned by the building that we're in for Medic One. I'm assuming you're asking is owned by Thurston County, so we do not lease. I'd have to calculate what the square footage is in the building
just might be.
We can easily get that information for you, Commissioner, from Central Services.
Okay.
We maintain those records.
I know the issue was brought up.
If you'd like to know, we can tell you.
Thanks.
Anything else for Ben on this item? Seeing nothing, we'll go on to item 7A, Public Health and Social Services. Contract award for Thurston County Hazardous Waste Management Plan update.
Right, so the Hazardous Waste Management Plan was last updated in 2014. The department went out for an RFP and received one bid. This will be a provider who supports staff, conducts citizen focus groups, and the SWAC, and will produce a plan that meets the needs of the communities and state and federal regulations. The funding is from the Department of Ecology, and the plan is anticipated to be complete in December of 2024. This contract would allow the Department of Public Health to enter contract negotiations, and I don't see who would be in the room to answer additional questions. So if you have them, I would write them down and get back to you next week.
Any questions on this item? Commissioner Edwards.
This is pass-through money though, coming in from the state, so we're
It's either pass-through
not.
money or it is coming from the, solid waste fund. I'm not sure which, but we can.
I'd rather have pass-through money coming in.
Me too.
know.
But we'll find out for sure where the funding is coming from.
Okay, that's my only question. I mean, not that we're still gonna do it.
It's coming from the Department of Ecology, from a grant.
As
That's
pass-through.
what I
Thank you.
thought, yeah.
Okay, good.
Okay, very good. Let's go to Public Works, 8A, interlocal agreement with City of Lacey for Marvin Road Upgrade Phase 1.
Items 8A and 8B are related. They are coordinating projects with the City of Lacey on the Marvin Road upgrade, and Matt is here to tell you about the projects.
Oops, this way.
Thank you.
Mapping, Matt Unkelman, County Engineer,
Yep.
County Road Engineer.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you, Commissioner. And this is Brian Meyer, our design manager, and attending his first ever agenda setting meeting is our buddy in Public Works, our new senior civil engineer, Ben Enfield.
Welcome, Ben.
So Ben will be presenting this item next week as Brian and I will both be gone, so we're getting his feet wet today.
Okay, very good.
So, as County Manager mentioned, the next two items are related to the Marvin Road project. We have not spoken to you about the Marvin Road project in a while, so I figured a quick update is appropriate. As you know, this part of the county is experiencing a lot of growth. The increased growth has caused several intersections along the Marvin Road corridor between Mullen Road and the state route to exceed the acceptable level of service. The acceptable level of service is identified in the comprehensive plan and has to be addressed to meet the Growth Management Act requirements and allow for community development to continue. The project limits extend from 22nd Avenue to Union Mills. A roundabout is installed at 19th Avenue. A median will be installed at Union Mills, which will allow for limited access. The estimated cost is $8.35 million. The breakdown includes $2.62 million in developer mitigation, $3.75 million from the Washington State Transportation Improvement Board, $1.693 million from the City of Lacey to pay for water and sewer, and the remaining $0.321 comes from the County Road Fund.
So the first item associated with this is the interlocal agreement with the City of Lacey. This agreement is for water and sewer infrastructure that the city owns within the roadway. So this agreement would allow their water and sewer improvements to be included in the bid and construction of this project. The city has funded design and will fund construction. The agreement will allow it to be included in our project to go to bid.
So this agreement also provides for a reimbursement mechanism for the City of Lacey to pay county staff back for the construction administration of the project as well.
Can you tell us in this map where, like, is this City of Lacey or is there?
Sure. So, no, this is all, it's all City of Lacey UGA. And so the Marvin Road corridor is going to get improved in 3 different phases. The phase that we're talking about today specifically just focuses in on 22nd Avenue to Union Mills. The next phase would go from Union Mills up to State Route 510. And then the third phase actually is being constructed by a developer, and that's the roundabout at the intersection of Marvin Road and Mullen Road.
So those phases are dropping southward?
So, so the next phase after this actually goes to the north. So it would actually extend the improvements up to the intersection at the rack.
But then.
Or, I'm sorry.
Yeah, then that third phase is at the very south end. So the section in between, we didn't have any issues with our concurrency with the level of service at our intersections. So we're addressing the immediate issue is this first phase with the 19th Avenue and Union Mills. Then we're going to continue these urban improvements of sidewalks and bike lanes and some intersection improvements going up to Pacific. And then the next issue we have is at Mullen and Marvin, where we're exceeding the level of service. And that, we have a developer that's going to be constructing that one for us.
Lacey has the best roads.
So basically, in order to stay compliant with the Growth Management Act, we have to address 5 different intersections that have exceeded the level of service, which is identified as a level of D in this part of the county. So it's going from south to north. The first one would be Marvin Road, Mullen. Then we would, as 25th Avenue, which we've already addressed with channelization improvements. Next one after that is 19th Avenue, which goes into McAllister Park. That's included in this project. That will be a full-size roundabout. The next one after that is Union Mills, where we'll have access control. So what that means is traffic turning out of Union Mills will have to take a right, go down to 19th, go around the roundabout, and then head up north. But they will still be able to take a left from Marvin Road onto Union Mills. And then the next intersection after that is 15th Avenue.
This may be off point, but you guys came with a conversation last year about the levels of service and maybe making some adjustments to be in line with like other.
Absolutely.
And does that tie into this at all?
So that will get updated with the update to the comprehensive plan. So the comprehensive plan is what identifies what the level of service thresholds are.
Yeah.
And so when we do the level of service, we are planning on making some updates to that, and we'll be presenting that for your consideration as part of the comp plan update. So no, this is still using that whole methodology of evaluating capacity.
Or would those changes apply here if they were in place?
They could.
Anyway, any other questions, Commissioner Edwards?
What would that look like?
The funding for this, is this partially from the road fund and the traffic impact fees?
So, as I mentioned, 1.693 is coming from either developer mitigation or transportation impact fees. So it's a combination of both.
And
There is a portion of road fund in this, though.
0.32 million.
so not so much.
Not so much. I mean,
What about a federal assist or state
we
assist?
got a state assist of 3.75 million from the Transportation Improvement Board. So, Commissioner, I think you'd be proud of us. We leveraged $0.321 million of local money to get more than $7 million of other funding sources. So I've heard somebody call it good revenue before.
Okay, well, I'm gonna say something out loud here. I very seldom get a chance to find that you've missed on your calculation or on bringing in those extra revenues, and I wanna thank you for overseeing that.
Thank you.
And continuing that philosophy. I do have one issue. There's a senior park on the left-hand side.
that's
It's
at-
always been a bugaboo. Have we addressed that, or
We're
is
getting that addressed, because that's actually at the intersection of 19th Avenue.
Yeah.
So you got one leg of the roundabout will go into McAllister Park, and the other leg will go into the Laurel Oaks, senior community.
and that's gonna solve that issue when we get this project completed?
Absolutely.
How quick can you get it completed?
Well, we've met with them many times over this, and some of their issues have been getting out onto the road, trying, because there's so
Yes.
much traffic, and for pedestrians crossing to the bus stops. And so with this roundabout, they'll be able to get out and do those turns, and we'll have protected crossings with flashing beacons, so pedestrians can get to the bus stops.
Okay, and we're gonna make sure the light bulbs are changed regularly on those, right?
Yeah, we do routine inspections for those.
Thank you very much. I'm just glad to see this finally come to fruition. We've been working
What do the
on it.
green dots represent? Those aren't street trees, or?
Those are straight trees. This was a conceptual, it was actually, this came out of our, before every project we do what's called a pre-design study to determine what the appropriate, project solution is. And at the time, we had street trees. We don't have street trees in the final drawings.
Commissioner Klaus.
Thank you. I just wanted to kind of echo what's already been said about your ability to leverage local funds here to get so much more to make this project happen. I think that's really awesome. I'm wondering also, in the future, who would be the right person to ask if I wanted to see a breakdown of the cost on a project? Just like really simple, what you stated was fine, but I wasn't quick enough to write down all the numbers and I kind of wanted to keep track of this. Would that be something the county manager would provide if I wanted that information before a meeting?
So we could provide that information to the county manager.
Okay.
So anytime you want a funding breakdown,
If you let Matt know, he can get with us and we can lay out the funding package for these.
You can have your aide reach out directly to Matt or either Rob or I.
Okay, great.
And any of us can get you that information.
I do want to, I appreciate the comment. I do want to follow up on that, is that our transportation projects are getting so large and costs have escalated so much. Without leveraging our smaller amounts of local dollars, we can't do the projects. Construction has just gotten that expensive, so.
I'm gonna have to pass the baton to Vice Chair. I did want to say though, I don't know about my new seatmates and their familiarity with some of these concepts, but it took me about a year before I could get my mind around concurrency and how that all works. So if that's sort of a mystery to you, get some time with Matt to just go through it, because it's not even something that could be explained in the context of this meeting. But it's really important to understand why these projects get done and how they get sequenced and everything. So anyway, Vice Chair, you're up. I'll be back.
Congratulations.
Sir, a comment. Can I ask a question?
Yes, please.
How are we doing on sidewalks on this project?
As far as?
Well, completed so that,
Oh, okay.
you know, they can get from point A to point B, somebody wants to walk.
So this project will add sidewalks on both sides of the street, both concrete sidewalks around the intersection and a 10-foot wide shared use asphalt path that'll go along the length of the project.
Okay, so that's all covered as well.
Yeah, and so then that future phase of the project that we talked about to the north, that'll take the project, so where these sidewalk stops, that'll take them all the way up to that State Route 510, and that has sidewalk that goes all the way directly to the rack. So
thank you very much.
Yeah, so it's kind of, this is a little missing area of sidewalk that we'll be starting to build and work our way all the way. Because from Pacific Avenue, there's sidewalk all the way into Hawks Prairie area then.
So one additional comment. So as Ben mentioned, the two agenda items today were an interlocal agreement with the city of Lacey and then permission to call for sealed bids. We will be returning one more time because the only hangup out there right now is we're working on an easement with the Burlington Northern Railroad. It's with their legal team for signature, so we fully expect to have that shortly. We would never call for sealed bids without having that easement in hand, so we will be returning one more time before we go to add.
We like to see you, you know, we don't have any big controversies when you're here. You just have to educate us a little bit. Thank you.
Thank you.
Speaking of the Burlington Northern, that seems like that's quite a challenge with the channelization around Union Mills and being able to go far enough north and be able to have queuing if there's a railroad crossing.
So here's the great thing about it. We're getting rid of that crossing.
Yeah, so we've been working with Burlington for about 5-6 years now, and in the last year, they've agreed that that crossing's not needed. And so they've given us a verbal, and our agreement that we're finalizing is to remove that crossing completely. So we no longer have the 120 school buses that have to stop there every day. And we won't have the issues of having a crossing right at an intersection. So
would they be abandoning the railroad there then?
Yep.
So maybe we can do some more trails for the parks?
And so we've talked and let City of Lacey know, because that's their trail coming into their community center, about extending that trail to the McAllister Park, which is on Marvin Road. And so their parks manager is aware of that rail line will be abandoned here. So.
But the physical tracks, they call it a bungalow, the little hut that's next to the railroad, that gets removed. The crossing arms get removed, everything goes away.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions or comments for Public Works team? All right, next item, you guys as well. I don't know, we just pass over this one, but the resolution to call for sealed bids. Are there any questions or comments on that item? Or did we cover that?
We're good.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Next up, description, set a public hearing to consider the application of Public Utility District Number 1 of Thurston County for a non-exclusive franchise for a water system within Thurston County rights of way.
So for this item, the Thurston Public Utility District Number 1 has applied for a franchise to construct, operate, and maintain water system in the Thurston County rights of way. This would be in unincorporated areas where the PUD provides services. And we have Craig Sisson here to answer any questions that you may have about this item.
Does the commission have any questions for Mr. Sisson?
This would be specifically to set the public hearing.
That's where the questions will come out. From the public anyway.
Seeking public input. And we generally have very little public input when we bring franchise agreements forward.
I guess I'd ask one question.
Sure.
Have we had any public input coming in on this particular topic, Craig?
Not at this time. This is a replacement franchise, so they did have one previously. So this is a replacement. The other one expired. This is an extension, and we've had no public comment.
I was just gonna follow, good point. I was just gonna follow up that this is just a renewal of one that already expired.
And it's been in place for quite some time, hasn't it?
Correct. The previous one was 15 years. I don't know how far back it goes, but a minimum of 2005, I believe it was.
Thanks.
Okay, any other questions about the public hearing? Hearing none, moving on. Then we have the standing items for the sixth agenda, which we will go over then. And that is it for, what's that?
3 p.m. public hearing.
Where's that at? Oh, then we have a public hearing for community planning and economic development. Public hearing to discuss forest lands conversion code update.
This item is to take public comment regarding the amendment to the forest lands conversion and tree protection standards in Thurston County Code. The development of this proposed code involved significant community engagement with many interested stakeholders. The Planning Commission held 2 work sessions on this code and recommends approval to the Board of County Commissioners on a 5-2 vote. That was on September 20th of 2023. The board held work sessions on this code on November 2nd and November 29th. And depending on the public comment you receive, you may take action immediately following the public hearing or at any time in the future, should you so choose. So we have staff here who would be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, County Manager. Are there any questions for staff regarding the public hearing for Forest Lands Conversion Code update?
Yes.
Go ahead, sir.
What was the breakdown on the Planning Commission's vote? Did 2 abstain? Were 2 not participating? Because usually these things get covered a little bit, so everybody gets, or did we have some vacancies that, were not filled yet? Could you give me the breakdown on
Sure.
how that all happened?
So, the two people were, not in favor. We're not in favor.
Right,
So they
2-5 vote.
Yeah, so
But
5 in
two-
favor and 2 not in favor. And then we had 1 vacancy on the board, or 1 vacancy on the planning commission currently, at that time, excuse me. And then we had 1 person absent. So we have, at that time, the planning commission was 9, well, this had 9 seats. 1 was vacant, 1 was absent, so we had 7 people voting that evening. 5 voted in favor, 2 voted not in favor.
And can you encapsulate the concerns?
Oh, yeah, the concerns from the 2 folks that decided against the recommendation were mostly due to concerns that it was not protective enough, that the percentages of mandatory required to be protected larger trees was not high enough. So they wanted to see that elevated.
Okay. Thank you.
Just a quick clarification, was this notice for 3:30 or 3 o'clock? 'Cause on this agenda says 3 and they're usually at 3:30.
Right, all the public noticing says 3:30, and I believe the only place that says 3 o'clock is in the agenda.
Okay, Katie's on it.
So what is the answer?
3:30.
It's at 3:30.
We'll update the agenda.
Catch.
It is on the calendar as 3:30.
Are there any other questions for staff regarding the public hearing? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, that finishes item 2 on today's agenda. We had a bathroom break scheduled, I believe. Would you guys like to do a halfway right now?
What's next?
Next is proclamations and awards.
So, thank you, commissioners. Thomasina is still working on the proclamations. We're waiting for a list from Commissioner Clausen.
Okay.
So we'll get that updated, and Thomasina should be able to finalize that once we have it.
Thank you. I was premature on the bathroom break. Advisory boards and commissions.
In your packet, you'll see the reappointment application received for the Agritourism Advisory Committee Chair, Mitch Lewis. I've also received applications for the Agriculture Advisory Committee vacant position. They have a meeting on February 15th where the committee will review applicants and provide feedback.
We do have applicants for that position.
Yeah, they do. I think we've received, I want to say maybe 3 or 4 the last few weeks, so. There is also 1 reappointment application for the Lewis Mason Thurston Area Agency on Aging for the staff contact, Mackenzie Sullivan, and that should be the last reappointment for them. This is a 2-year. I received 1 more application for the Planning Commission, Colin Bartlett, application attached there. And 3 applications for the youth student seat on the Fair Board. Those are with staff contact to give recommendations.
Could you send Matt the applicants for the board, for the ag board, please?
Yes.
All right, are there any questions for staff regarding advisory boards and commissions?
Commissioners? Sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say that I plan on appointing Colin Bartlett. So I can do that as soon as today at the meeting if we wanted to add that to the agenda. But I just wanted to let the board know.
Okay. Assistant County Manager?
So if we could, we've actually been successful in getting our first tribal representative for the Board of Health. So we have Ray Peters from the Squaxin Island Tribe, and they've gone through the process of their tribal council has actually passed a resolution with their appointee. The document is put on the table for the board. So if it's possible to either walk that on today, or it would be doable for next Tuesday as well, to have his appointment recognized in advance of the meeting on the 13th.
So does the Board of County Commissioners have to formally appoint the members who were representing organizations?
There's still an action per our ordinance that the legislative authority of the Board of County Commissioners still makes the appointments to the Board of Health. And it's just probably good in terms of housekeeping because we have not had a proactive engagement by the American Indian Health Commission. So if we can take action here locally, then we will officially communicate to them that in fact we have recognized this appointee on our Board of Health.
Yes, sir.
Again, as we're talking about the Board of Health, I have two issues on planning commissioners, or on appointments as well. On the Board of Health, it calls for the, Indian Council, something makes the appointment besides the tribe. I can't remember the terminology. I'm all for Ray Peters being put on there, and I'd say put him on today and do it. My question is that gonna meet the legal requirement because we haven't been successful in getting a name from that entity that I can't remember the name of right now?
The American Indian Health Commission.
That's it.
And we've been working with Vicki Lowe there because they have sort of been bogged down in their appointments to the various boards of health. And so we communicated to her that we were going to be a little bit more proactive. So we're kind of turning it around, but they will be able to get that information and we'll be fine.
Okay, that was my only concern. I'd put Ray on
We're doing
today.
them a favor by being proactive.
Yeah, we're helping them along, so to speak. It's been a while. Okay, so I'm good,
Yeah.
to put them on for today. What do my seatmates think about that?
All right.
So we're gonna move Ray and then Colin Bartlett.
Well, yeah, I was gonna want, make sure that we do, apparently, that's the recommendation, that he get on there today, right? Yeah.
Okay,
Good.
excellent.
Commissioner Edwards, a couple weeks ago, you had added the agency area on aging appointments. Did you add that one for reappointment?
I would. Eileen? Yeah. If that's okay with my seatmates.
Yeah, that's fine with me. I was gonna suggest Eileen Mackenzie Sullivan and Mitch Lewis be added.
Okay,
Since those are reappointments, and Mitch Lewis is currently the chair of the Agritourism Advisory Committee.
I'm good with all of the above.
Mitch Lewis is okay too for today? All right. So I have that we're gonna add Mitch Lewis, Eileen McKinsey Sullivan, Colin Bartlett, and
Ray Peters.
Ray Peters. I started to say Ray Parker, I knew that wasn't right. Today.
Question. So like where it says Historic Commission and it has District 2, 13, alternate 14, 15, what do those numbers represent?
I believe they represent the seats.
Okay, but they're at-large appointments?
That is a good question. I am not sure the answer. Do you know?
So the District 2, those are specific seats from what I understand, and the alternates would potentially be able to sit in any, but I can get that answer from the historical.
Okay. So those are vacancies of Commissioner Edwards?
See the number of seats that.
On the historic one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I know Jeremy is working on also revamping this committee just because it is district. It was one of those that was district by district, but I know the Historic Commission, when we last looked at it, it's a very interesting commission and the makeup and the setup and the requirements. It was, when we looked at it like 3 years ago, it was one of those that was kind of really convoluted. So I know Jeremy's working kind of through the details and working on kind of these district by district appointments since we have an expanded board now. So this is one of the ones that's going to be coming up.
Okay.
And I think I'll just, from my perspective, if I'm delinquent here, I'll wait for Jeremy to make a recommendation maybe. Because I'd like to be able to ask, is Gary Alexander, has the term expired or is he still on there? So maybe Jeremy will know those answers. So we'll get with him later. Thank you.
And then the Lodging Tax Advisory Committee, that's not the one that we just filled. There's still one vacancy?
Nope, that's the one we just filled.
That's the one we just filled, okay.
Thank you.
Take that off. Okay, any other questions or comments regarding advisory boards and commissions? All right, moving on. PIO check-in.
Good morning, Commissioners. Megan Porter, Public Information Supervisor. I have worked with the Prosecuting Attorney's Office to get an operating agreement reviewed for TC Media to continue to provide public access and have access to Channel 22. I plan to bring that forward to the February 20th board meeting for approval. That way, there's no monetary, it's purely just providing them access so they can continue to post public access content on Channel 22. City of Lacey has already entered into this agreement, and the other two cities, City of Olympia and the City of Tumwater, are working through that with TC Media at this time as well. There was a question about whether our content was still being posted on Channel 3. It is. City of Olympia has access to post it to Channel 3, so they are pulling our content from YouTube and they are posting board meetings and public hearings and special programming, and they are doing that for us at this point until we get that finalized with Comcast on how else we can post to Channel 3. But our content is still being posted to Channel 3. And then I'm really excited to announce on Thursday, 2 new staff will be starting, 2 new public information specialists. I will bring them next Tuesday and introduce them. We have our media production person, it will be Devin Felix. And then our new internal communications person is Stephanie Mullen. So I'm very excited to get them on Thursday and we'll get them onboarded and get working. Pending any questions, that's kind of it.
Thank you. Any questions for the PIO? All right, now we get to take a bathroom break. So we'll take a 10-15 minute break and we'll come back to it. Thank you.
back. It's 10:56 a.m., picking back up, as I understand it, with item 6. Is that correct? Legislative check-in?
Yes.
Okay.
Good morning, Commissioners. Just wanted to provide you a legislative briefing for this week. The bill status is as of Sunday, but we're focusing on today being the 30th. And so tomorrow, believe it or not, is the first policy cutoff of this short legislative session. So after that, things will either become easier because some things won't be making it through, and then we'll kind of know what the smaller landscape is. But it definitely will be kind of rolling at a fairly fast pace from now until the end of the session. There are some tax packages that are still out there, whether or not they're actually receiving hearings, et cetera. They're all considered NTIB or necessary to implement the budget, and those can resurrect themselves at any given time. Some really great news is both House Bill 2090 and Senate Bill 5970, which allow us some flexibility with our Board of Health membership in terms of the number of commissioners have passed out. They are in their respective rules committees, and Deborah's been working with several senators, including majority and minority floor leaders, to try to get 5970 pulled from rules. And they're actually having a Senate Rules Committee meeting this afternoon at 1 o'clock. So we're keeping our fingers crossed and also doing outreach to the House Rules Committee to see if we can get that pulled to a floor calendar, which would be helpful. The other one that I would draw your attention to, we talked a little bit earlier when we were talking about concurrency and synchronizing with the update to the comp plan. There are a couple of bills out there that would allow us potentially an additional 6 months for the completion of our 2025 comprehensive plan update. It was passed out of, House bill was passed out unanimously out of committee and is headed to rules. And we have an executive session for the Senate version today. So we'll kind of see where that goes. It's always nice to have that flexibility.
We have an executive session?
No, sorry, the committee, the Senate committee will have an executive session set for today to sort of take that legislation, decide whether or not they pass it out of committee, in which case it would go on to Senate rules and then potentially a floor calendar for consideration. But it's whether or not we will need it. That's the challenge. We were appropriated $700,000 over the 2-year period. This could extend the amount of time we have to complete the next comp plan update, but currently there are no dollars associated with it.
It's not just for us, there's other entities as well, isn't it?
Oh, sure. We're just one of several counties that are
Yeah.
in this cycle.
Okay.
That would be given a little extra time.
Everybody gets an extension to deal with.
Anyone with the 2025 update deadline. And then the other ones I just want to call out is that you do have an updated legislative tracker. One thing that is moving through, and I'm sure Commissioner Menser knows a lot more about it than I, is the NCS proviso request. And this is looking at through the Climate Commitment Act's Natural Climate Solutions account. Whereas we did not receive enough appropriations to go beyond the 2,000 acres, this would be asking for some additional funding to make possible the consideration of an additional 655 acres. But they're looking at spreading this proviso funding over 2 years to hopefully make it a little bit more palatable for the legislature as they have those considerations.
When does this get, because it's a proviso, is it come later in the process because it's more budget related?
It's tied to the budget, correct.
So this hasn't necessarily been, we don't know if this is getting any traction or not, it's just something that's upcoming.
Correct.
We
So
can
it's
talk to our legislators about it Wednesday night when we have our reception. Okay.
And just an update, I know one of our priority areas was related to animal services. Nothing, unfortunately, is happening in that regard. But we have Representative Berg and Whalen have been working on this and have committed to working during the interim to flesh out a little bit more. They did do some outreach with the Department of Revenue to understand what a potential amount of revenue is generated from animal-related products. So that gives them somewhat of a rough budget number as they're moving forward and come up with a potential option. But to know that you won't see any activity this legislative session, but we'll hear more in the interim between now and next session. And with that, the last thing, which really is a question for the board, which I just got, is in front of you is a draft letter requesting a letter of support from the Board of County Commissioners for a capital request from the city of Lacey for their public safety training center, which would fund some basic law enforcement academies. And so this is, as historically we develop a shared priorities legislative agenda with the various cities throughout the county. Doug Ma with the chamber takes the lead on helping to compile what that looks like. And you probably remember seeing it when we went to the last chamber luncheon. It was really a highlight of that vision magazine. But basic law enforcement academies is a key priority. So they're hoping that the board might sign on to a letter of support. So this is just the draft that was provided by the city for our consideration.
I'm curious about how this fits in with the sheriff and where he's at.
I think there's two entities that would both like to have Leah paying rent. And then, you know, I'm told that, well, Lacey's not gonna have the classroom space to support this, and, you know, the CJTC is not truly interested, and I don't know if that's true. You know, and then, you know, I'm told that our sheriff wants to find a facility where he could host, you know, the BLEA class, and they could help pay his rent, and, but, you know, what is more realistic, and, you know, what is, you know, like, when we talk about having like a regional jail and things like that, in my mind, I'm like, yeah, well, let's do the regional thing for the jail, and Lacey can do the regional thing for training, and, you know, it seems to make sense, but they've actually got to be building something out that is gonna meet CJTC's needs, and I don't, how do we determine that?
I think that would be a great question. We can pull in Rick Walk, who's the city manager, I should probably better understand what conversations the city has had with CJTC. To really
initially it was just a police station, and then they've added on
training space, and does it meet the CJTC requirements for training? I'd be happy to follow up with them. I know that this is specifically a capital request, so it's timely relative to this legislative session, and doesn't necessarily preclude a similar investment in another another space down the road. Given that we don't know what our own space might be, this is something that's already being designed and breaking ground in a couple of weeks.
And I know they're putting a bunch of money into ranges, which is sorely needed, but I don't know, I'm getting different stories.
And I'd like to hear the whole story from everybody before we shoot ourselves in the foot, possibly.
So this is part of our shared legislative agenda that the county, all three cities, the EDC, the community college, we've all signed on to this being one of the 5 or 6 top priorities for Thurston County.
But I'm hearing the sheriff may not be in alignment with this priority.
I understand that the sheriff has gone to the training, the Criminal Justice Training Commission, and is interested in having the commission in his space, his future space as well. But we don't have a plan for what that space is, and the academies are needed locally right now. So if there's an opportunity to support Lacey and then an opportunity to expand on that when we do have a plan for the sheriff, I would recommend that that would be a way to go.
And there's no guarantee, right? This is like writing a letter of recommendation for a grant. There's no guarantee that the legislature will actually fund it.
Sure. My concern with that, though, is once you start the ball rolling, sometimes it might get finished and in getting finished, it might not meet the needs. And so it sounds like there's a concern by the sheriff that, yes, that regional center would be good, with Lacey, but they're not going to meet the needs. And I guess he's thinking maybe he can meet the needs, but he doesn't have a place yet, and all that. So I would just like to, before we make a decision, I'd certainly like to hear from Lacey and the sheriff to, because I don't want to stymie something that could be a solution. But on the other hand, I don't want to end up with a solution that does not serve the need. So I think we're in kind of a dilemma here. And we're up against the clock, it sounds like, at the same time. So
What does the CJTC need?
Pardon?
What does the CJTC need? Like what do they need?
Well, yeah, but we don't know. We're just kind of hearing rumors back and forth, and I'm concerned about that.
What do they need to host a regional academy?
Commissioner Mejia?
Thank you. I'm wondering how much is being asked, like how much funding are they requesting for these two items? And then so this is a capital request is what I'm hearing? And kind of what I've heard is capital requests this year are.
Yeah. Under 50,000 or something like that, I heard.
They're, just because of the short session and budget issues the state is facing, capital requests are not going to be. So I'm just wondering like where all of this kind of fits in the grand scheme of things.
They've requested 500,000 from the capital budget.
Okay. For the two items or just for?
What was relayed by Deborah from the consultant working with the city of Lacey is that they've asked for 500,000 in the capital budget, but they think at this point in time, the more important issue is the operating budget and supporting an operating budget proviso at the CJTC where it redirects some of their existing funding to go to our region to start a training class. So they're kind of are working it from two approaches, some capital investment, but also trying to redirect some of the training commission's funding to a training class locally.
That secondary one wouldn't have there would be no reason to not support that based on the controversy or the discussions.
Right, we'll need that no matter where the academy lands.
Can I throw out one other thing, sir? What about, and I have not talked to the sheriff about this, so I don't know anything about what his concerns were. I just want to make sure that we do have adequate space, I guess, when the time comes to do a proper job that would solve the problem. We have quite a big training room. I heard something about a lack of a training space or classroom. Is there anything to that?
To host the police academy here at the atrium?
Yeah, I mean, is there, we've got that big room up there.
Yeah.
And it's only used only a little bit in comparison to time span. So maybe that would suffice for that location. I don't know. I don't like making decisions when I don't have all the facts.
So maybe doing a letter for the second request, which is the operating budget proviso, because that's going to be needed regardless. And then waiting for item one until we get more information from the city of Lacey on what their plan is for something like this. But I know that these letters are know, when they're asked for, they needed them yesterday kind of, you know, situation with what's going on in the legislature. So, knowing that item 2 is, it's needed regardless of where it goes. Maybe doing a letter in support of that item.
I would be very much in support of that, you know, moving forward, because we, like you say, we need it anyway. But I am concerned, about that other issue. We did a $2 million, support letter for Tumwater the other day. And I was told when I got to looking into that, because other jurisdictions are in the same situation, I was told that it isn't happening. You know, they don't have $2 million to give out. This, you know, they're sticking around 50 and under on these kind of requests. So, yeah, I'd be willing to do that. I'd be willing to do the other if I had more facts, but I don't have enough facts for me.
I was told, I don't understand all of the ins and outs of all this, but I did speak to, I think, Mayor Ryder, and I've spoken to a few people about this, and the sheriff. My understanding is that if you can have an academy here, like when they have to go somewhere for how many months?
Yeah, several months.
And they're away from their family and everything,
It
like if
doesn't
you
work.
can have it local, it's a huge recruiting thing, because then they come here and they can be trained, they don't have to leave their kids and their family.
And there's a backlog. There's a backlog.
And there's a backlog,
sometimes a
so I
year or
mean,
two.
it just seems like, I don't wanna get into a competition about who gets the thing. Like, having it in this region, I think is of very, very large importance, and value. So, you know, whoever's out front and taking the steps to get, you know, something moving, I think we should support that.
What did I haven't had any talks with the sheriff, so you apparently have. So what did he say? Did
Not
he
about
say-
this, I just know, he has talked about the concept
sure.
of having,
Yeah.
he's explained to me the importance of the concept of having a facility like that in our region versus having to ship people out of the region.
There's just a very big discussion that needs to be had with the sheriff about his facilities planning and how we get a plan nailed down that we can all be on the same page with. You know, because he's very eager to get going on that, and he'd love to capture kind of this opportunity within his planning. But we gotta kind of nail down that discussion.
I think there needs to be conversations, because I know our budget team is doing what they need to do and checking off the boxes, and, you know, they're working with the auditor's office and kind of getting all the information in terms of bonds, and knowing that bonds do take a while. We have to go through bond council. There's a whole process that we have to follow in terms of this. So I know our budget team is working on that aspect of things right now and making sure that we have our checklist done. So when it is time, we can actually have that conversation in terms of like what it is that we can actually do, and making sure that all of our I's are dotted and our T's are crossed, whatever the saying is. So, but there's I don't know, Robin, I'll pass it to you and make sure that I cover that correctly.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner. We are working with bond counsel now. You will see the bond reimbursement resolution come before you in February. That allows us to charge any costs, but there is a question at this time about bonding against the public safety sales tax that we are trying to resolve. And if we're not able to bond against that money, it'll be years before we can address a facility.
What's the question about that?
There has been a question raised by financial services that we are trying to resolve. So
Whether or not
we're
we can
working through
bond against the public
that is
safety
the
sales tax
question
revenue.
that has been raised.
Well, who knows about that? We don't, this is the first I've heard
Bond
about that.
counsel knows about that, and we have reached out to them.
So this is what I'm saying, like, there's a lot of work being done with that staff is working.
When there's going to be a facility for the sheriff is very questionable. We know that the city of Lacey is about to break ground on their police facility. And we know that the need for a local academy is great. So if we could support this, and it doesn't need to be a either or, it can be an and. Support this, and if the sheriff has a facility with sufficient space, support that too when the time comes.
So that's kind of what I was saying, that there's a lot of work being done behind the scenes that maybe it's not out there, that, you know, staff is working and making sure that, you know, as a board that we have, you know, everything we need. That way, when that conversation comes up, we can have a full conversation and staff is able to provide and make sure that we are, that we're doing it the right way.
Regarding the sheriff's department facilities. I don't.
Not just the sheriffs, I mean, it's the auditors too, right? It's the ballot processing center as well, so
Yeah.
anything.
This is
around-
all brand
That's a
new to
different
me.
discussion.
I never knew there was a
This was
problem.
brand new to me yesterday, late yesterday afternoon, so you're getting late breaking.
Off the press.
And we're working on it, so please don't think that there is a roadblock where right now it's a bump in the road and we're working through it.
But regarding this, I do think that even if the CJTC has a camp that they set up here, it doesn't mean they can't use multiple facilities as well. If there's classrooms at Lacey that fill up, that, of course, there'd be classes at the sheriff's new facility that would be being used. You know, and there's other classes that CJTC offers outside of BLEA that, you know, once they're in this community, I would imagine you can have cooperative agreements to provide those types of classes everywhere.
Am I hearing you think that we ought to just go ahead in both items? Is that what I'm hearing?
I think so.
I mean, I'm not against doing that, I just haven't talked to the sheriff, so.
Yeah.
I'd like to include him on the mix but if you have, or, Commissioner has, I'm good with whatever you guys say, but.
Yeah, Commissioner Klaus.
Yeah, I have heard a few concerns raised that I think are valid concerns. I liked the idea of talking with Rick and the sheriff. I don't know if we would want to do that in a public meeting, so we all had a chance to ask any questions we might have about this. So that's my first thing is, I wouldn't be ready to say like, yes, let's support both of these things without some of those questions being answered first. And my second thing was, I was hearing what sounded like somewhat of a consensus, although we didn't all speak on it, but regarding the operating budget proviso. So is there anyone who could kind of give me some more context around that and why the thought I'm hearing is that it's needed anyway, so let's go ahead and support that, before hearing more info on that. I mean, this might be something that we already was discussed before my time here, so I don't really understand the reason why we would just say, yeah, let's do this, let's support it. What would the implications be if we did support that?
The one versus the two kind of thing? Like, what's the rationale?
Well, yeah, so this letter, the two things on this letter, that was kind of separate from this question. I'm asking about the operating budget, just any context around the operating budget. What's being asked of us here? Are we just being asked to sign off saying we approve something, or are there financial implications for this? Like, what is the operating budget and where does it come from?
So it's not approval, it's support. That the county is supportive of Lacey's request for funding from the legislature
For the
for
CJTC.
academy training in our area.
It's to increase the operating budget of the Criminal Justice Training Center to allow an additional BLEA class that we would like to see brought.
Okay, so we're asking for state money. We're not.
You're not asking for any
Well, we're
money.
not
We're saying,
asking-
give the
we're-
CJTC more money to put on another BLEA class.
So it's support rather than approval. And what you would be supporting, should this letter not be altered, would be space in Lacey's very soon to be built new public safety center for the training And then the second item, and the reason that we say we need it regardless, is so that the CJTC can pay for staff to operate the classes, regardless of where the training space is within this area. So it wouldn't matter if the class was in our training room here at the atrium, or in the new Lacey facility, or in a new sheriff's building. The state agency needs operating funds to be able to send a trainer and run the training. That's what number 2 is all about.
Okay.
Could we approve this contingent on the county manager or assistant county manager calling the sheriff and seeing if he had an objection? If he didn't, then this would go out under board signature. If he did, then we would address it next Tuesday morning.
And I do have a meeting with him tomorrow afternoon.
Yeah.
But is that soon enough? Is that soon enough? Because just Commissioner Mia said we need it yesterday, and she's probably right.
The state is currently considering their budget.
The fortunate part is it is tied to the budget, so it won't be finalized for several more weeks, but it's nice to.
Well, that's what I was thinking, get it out if
I think he'd have, his concerns are on behalf of CJTC essentially. He has said to me that they're not building enough classroom space to facilitate this. And so, what does that mean? Well, we have no right to ask the city of Lacey, show us where you're building, or we could, but, show us where you're building. And then how do we get to judge whether or not it's enough classroom space for the CJTC or not?
And I'm more than happy to follow up with Rick and kind of get at some of that. What are those CJTC requirements? And how has the design that the city of Lacey is crafting incorporates those requirements to
I
make
have a
sure
hard time
that it
believing
meets-
that they would be building something that wouldn't, but it was also like a month ago, they didn't have any money and they weren't going to, they weren't at all going to build a regional training center. They were just gonna build a police station. So then it was like, we found the money.
Yeah, I mean,
We probably got some REIT tax in
Mayor Ryder had told me they'd analyzed the capacity, and they did some financial analysis that revealed additional capacity they didn't previously completely understand they had, which opened some opportunities. Okay, well, I mean, if we had a Thursday commissioner check-in, which we don't, then I'd say let's get these answers and let's discuss it on Thursday. But since we don't, I don't want to miss the opportunity to support something we're all in favor of, just the fact, but just because we don't have some unanswered, some questions not answered.
Well, how can we say, personally for me, I can't say I'm in favor of it one way or another without some of these questions being answered.
Okay, how about this? How about if a majority of the board, I would rather have this go under a signature of the chair of the board than a portion of the board, if it was me and I was receiving this. So if a majority of the board said, well, how about the chair signs it? Would that work to solve this dilemma, because we're short some information?
I have to say if I'm speaking on behalf of the board or not. I mean, it doesn't really matter who signs it. I'm either speaking for the board or I'm speaking for myself.
But you would be speaking for the Board of County Commissioners. You're the chair. I'm okay with that.
I don't know, any bright ideas, Assistant County Manager? Just in terms of timing, I mean,
I
and
think
getting questions
timing-
answered.
I think from a facilitation standpoint, if the board, there was general consensus that as a shared legislative priority that's been developed over a number of months, that acknowledges the need for more localized basic law enforcement training. If you are supportive of just submitting a letter that the city of Lacey can include in their package, making a request to the legislature saying, we know there's need, and here is one way that possibly can help begin to meet that need. It's not everything. It's not the be-all, end-all. But if we can support that and allow the process to move forward as the legislature has their debates about what they can and cannot afford, it allows them to know that there's a unified front really being able to say, we all know the value of having BLEA, the Basic Law Enforcement Academy here, that capacity in Thurston regionally.
And can I ask Commissioner Klaus, is your concern about this issue of conflict with the sheriff's designs, or do you have a like a broader concern about the whole concept?
Well, I think for me, the concern is around just like not understanding, previous discussions. It sounds like some of the commissioners have had conversations with the sheriff regarding his idea for, something similar. I haven't personally had a conversation with him on that, so, the only thing I know about, how this relates to the sheriff is what we've heard in our public meetings. So I don't know enough about that. And then there were also questions about how does this fit in with the goals of the Sheriff's Department and CJTC, which some of those questions we've discussed the answers to now. But I would just kind of like to understand, I mean, this just came to us yesterday. So even though it kind of ties back to some things we've talked about for several months, signing off on this letter without kind of having a chance to review the details and talk to the people who would be impacted or who might have goals that align with it is just not something I'd be comfortable with. These are the kinds of things that I really want to pay close attention to and make sure that if I'm saying, yes, I support this, then I understand all the details of what I'm saying I support.
Okay. Commissioner Edwards?
I still think it would be worth, I think your signature is better than 4 signatures. That's all I'm saying. As we move this forward, because there is some merit to asking if there's any hope at all. But what I'm hearing from Robin is that we might have other problems we don't even know about. So we're not even close to solving the issue for the sheriff right now. And if Lacey's a little closer, then
That's where I'm at.
yeah, okay, so I'm
I don't know
with
what
you.
the sheriff's plan is regarding this. I've never made that connection. I've heard him tell me how important it would be to have it somewhere in this county. And I know that he's got, you know, facility needs. I don't know how those, I've never had a conversation as to how those connect. I have talked to Mayor Ryder about right after they realized they had capacity to go forward with this request. And I don't remember all the details, but I remember him making a very impassioned and compelling argument that this would be, you know, Lacey had the land, it was like ready to go in a sense with
And we're
financial
not.
capacity,
We're not.
land they already had, and all they needed to do was, you know, design the expanded, you know, facility and, you know, pursue these types of funding avenues. So
whatever my seatmates want to do.
How about another option, to continue to, perhaps under the interim county manager's signature, the letter goes into support, and there's an intro to the letter actually that talks about the shared legislative priorities that are developed amongst all the jurisdictions of Thurston County, acknowledging the need for this capacity in our community. And that way it sort of allows us to sort of set them aside, saying this is a shared identified priority. This is a request going in from the city of Lacey. We support it because it's part of our shared priorities and it can move forward without necessarily worrying about all of ticking the boxes and potential conflict with other desires.
I think it would also be bad form just to not support this other agency's effort on, you know, from our position. I think that's just bad intergovernmental relations as well.
I don't care what the solution is, but I think we better do something. One of these processes we should move forward.
I'll make a motion to,
We're not in a meeting.
Can't what?
We're not in a meeting, we can't make motions.
We're not in a meeting?
We're not in a.
Make a suggestion.
You can make a direction.
I'm gonna suggest that we review a letter along the lines that Assistant County Manager just proposed.
I'm all for that. I'm good with you.
Did you say review a letter along the lines of what the assistant county manager proposed? When would we review that letter? Would it be
I can work on it this afternoon.
But it wouldn't be coming from us, it would be coming from your seat.
But from the county.
From me. I would sign on behalf of the
Okay,
As the county manager.
but are they asking for one from the commissioners?
They would like a letter of support from Thurston County. I
Okay.
think at this point, they don't care who signs it.
Okay, so then,
Says name or position.
Yep.
and Commissioner Klaus is wanting to review the letter, is that something is that something that would then be to our next meeting where we have to review it and vote on it, or is that something that you've got direction to move forward?
Pass it around like we do letters, and if you've got edits, give us feedback, and we get it out as quickly as everybody's saying, yeah, this looks fine to me.
I'm there.
Yes? Yes? It's like four votes for that?
Yeah, I don't see any problem with
Votes.
reviewing a letter. That's the direction we're giving to staff, is to create a letter for us to review. That makes sense to me. We're not asking them to send the letter to anyone until we've seen it, so.
Until you've seen it, at which point we will be sending it.
After you receive feedback, you're correct, okay. That gives me time to at least email out some of my questions and then have more info before I review the letter and maybe give some feedback, so I'm
Okay, very
okay with
good.
that.
Thank you.
Good solution, Chair.
Does that go on to, okay, that was 6, right?
Yes.
That wraps up legislative check-in. Let's go to, before we leave legislative check-in, can I just touch base with, there's a reception on Wednesday evening. Are we all attending that? It's a WASAC sponsored, is it? Am I correct in that?
It's a WASAC sponsored legislative reception.
Do you know
to
which
the-
legislators are attending?
I don't.
Okay.
I don't think
They
anyone ever
invite
knows.
everyone, and they ask each commissioner to invite their legislation, so, I've been.
This is not just LD 22 thing or Thurston County thing, this is,
Statewide.
It's
this is a
statewide.
huge thing.
Yeah, so they ask, and it's really informal. I attended it last year. It's, legislators are coming in and kind of coming out, and so it's.
I'm glad I asked, because we've had ones in the past. I remember one at SPSCC, I remember one at Octopus, where we had
Oh, that's right.
it was a more localized,
Right.
kind of like, it
For
was
the
like
shared, for the
akin
shared
to our,
agenda,
akin to our breakfast thing.
Right.
But it's like an evening thing with hors d'oeuvres, and we sit down and it's like mid-session, and we kind of talk about where things stand and how they're going. Very much Thurston County focused. This is not that.
I've not heard of anything like that coming up, and I had not heard about this.
Yeah. It's a Wasac LSC, it's the reception that they do yearly, and it's for all legislators to come in and kind of meet with commissioners. It's, again, really informal, and it's,
So we may have commissioners from neighboring counties?
yeah, so there's commissioners,
Pretty much all
From all over the
LSC
state.
members are there.
Yeah.
And it could be more than your LSC representative. The invitation does go out to all legislators, but depending on floor action, other committee meetings, et cetera, you're competing with umpteen different receptions.
That's right.
So usually there's probably about 15 to 20.
Where is this scheduled to
It's
be?
at Oxtava.
It is at Octopus, I guess that's what I was remembering.
And that's
I was
over on
remembering.
Water Street?
It's the old
Yeah.
Water Street.
Water Street one.
Yeah, that's, they've had it there before.
So if 3 or more of you are gonna attend at the same time, we need to notice it. So
Already on the master.
It's been on the calendar.
it's on the master calendar?
Yeah.
Okay. Then it's just me that has not been tracking.
Okay, let's go.
All right.
That's fine.
There is a lot going on.
Yeah.
Let's go to item 7.
Okay, so with item 7, this is an update on the recruitment for the county manager, and I'm going to ask that we go into executive session on this topic.
Okay.
The RCW site.
I can do Maria's going to join the board for this conversation.
Could we do the other 2 commissioner items and then just go into executive session for
certainly
this item
could.
and then the next one? That's just a recommendation, Chair.
Besides that, I'd like to have the prosecuting attorney be in on this with us.
you can certainly invite him into any of your executive sessions.
Yeah, I like him around for everything.
Okay, so the proposal from Commissioner Mejia is to jump to Commissioner items 8.1 and 8.2, and then move the county manager discussion connected to the other executive session we have on the Carrot Timber parcel. Is there any concern about that?
Sounds good. Let's do it quick.
Okay, then let's go, let's take that up and go to the VCB funding.
I asked that to be on there, and I mean, we could talk about this later as well and keep it on there, but I wanted to have a more detailed discussion about, how we fund the VCB and, you know, what the deliverables are that we get from them. As we look for more ways to bring in revenue, I think tourism is a great place to look. And so to make sure that we're being strategic with that and with the VCB, you know, kind of what are our goals and what kind of opportunity revenues can we create through, you know, I guess additional funding. Right now, I don't remember exactly, it was something like we give them like $40,000 to $50,000 a year. There's really no agreement for what they provide for us outside, as far as I understand, correct me if I'm wrong, outside of the MOU saying that they will provide marketing for the agritourism and for the Bountiful Byway. So, you know, just kind of maybe a bigger discussion about how we engage with them and what our goals are marketing wise. And, you know, because it is a good revenue generator, or it should be if done right. So.
And let me ask one question on that, Chair, sir.
Okay, go ahead.
Have we made that decision about the additional $2 or something that we're?
Not yet, that is
Could we
on your
include
revenue.
that
Yes.
in that discussion? maybe?
Yeah, that's a big part of it. All of that stuff, the TPA.
Yeah, we need a little more time.
Additional 2% with the LTAC money.
This seems like a big topic.
Yes.
Can we add it to the February planning session agenda?
You certainly could do
Would that be
that.
a good place?
Absolutely.
To have a more
Yep.
extended discussion, because I've never served on any of those related boards. I barely know what
Okay.
the funding is and
I've
who
been
gets
there.
what and how it's
Wayne's on
structured.
there, so.
Never had any of those roles, so I could be learning as much as anybody else about the foundation and context for what you're
Awesome.
talking about.
I would also say that this item, and you'll hear it in the February planning session, this belongs on the budget track.
Okay, well, let's take it up kind of at a more foundational level at February.
Yep.
All right, sounds good.
How-
Commissioner Edwards.
How about this issue for the EDC?
What issue? This letter?
Letter,
Uh,
EDC. We might as well
so-
get it out of the way too. I can't see any reason why we would not be supporting this. I thought Wayne was in on that.
So this is an additional item that I was bringing forward that I received quite late last week, which is the request from the EDC to support their application for funding that's going to the U.S. Department of Energy.
Yeah, I mean,
So-
why not? I guess is what I'm saying. Why not?
That is my question too. Why would
Okay.
you not
Thumbs
support?
up for me.
Okay, so we do thumbs up. Got it? Got it?
All right.
Got 2, 3, got 4.
I've never seen this. I don't know what it's
This
talking
is
about.
brand new, and Jenica can
What does it mean? I don't know
explain.
what epic round 3 means. Somebody's
Right after round 2.
Jenica is here.
Jenica is here.
I mean,
They're applying for money for a project.
Okay.
Yes, so we just received this letter of support request. The EDC is planning to apply for a grant at the end of the week. And in the email from Michael Cade, he says, this is a grant to the U.S. Department of Energy Office of Technology Transitions. They are proposing a split between the Lacey Maker Center and CBNI for the development of an incubator for the prototyping of energy efficient products. He's seeking a letter from the county for support. The CBNI proposes a minimal viable program that connects the entrepreneur ecosystem of the Center for Business and Innovation with the prototyping resources of the Lacey Makerspace sorry, I ran down here when I saw what you were talking about. And the capital resources of the Thurston Investment Network, or it goes by the acronym of THINK. The program would be a new ecopreneur incubator focused on entrepreneurs developing products that increase energy efficiency, reduce carbon footprints, and reduce waste. The new program would be entitled the South Sound Ecopreneur Incubator. I have additional info if you want me to keep going, but that's
I guess why not?
summary.
I'm ready.
Yeah, everybody okay on
Yeah,
that?
everybody good.
I think we're all
It's a good thing.
So we will
Thank you.
circulate this for signature this afternoon.
You want to talk to first thing?
Thank you,
Yes.
Jenica.
It's the next one.
Parks Commission, is that where we're at?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Yep.
So I'd like to bring forth and, you know, I guess create space for a discussion about standing up a Parks Commission. You know, we've had a Parks Department that I think most people would agree has kind of been anemic for 8 to 10 years.
Forever.
Yeah, forever. And, you know, it hasn't, there's, for whatever reason, mostly money, there's been little success in growing our Parks Department or really putting any highlights on our Parks Department and kind of moving it, you know, kind of out of the anemic phase. And I'm wondering if we could have a discussion about maybe the first place to start is propping up a public committee that could serve as supporters for the Parks Department, you know, an advisory board to the commission, and maybe that's where we start.
I think
The
that's
discussion I'd like to have.
a great thing to have for our February planning session.
You'd
we don't
suggest
have time.
March
Huh?
planning session, the February one's getting full.
Well, we just have to work through lunch. I don't know, I'm gonna say put it on the February one. Strike while the iron's hot. Anybody objecting?
Concern about adding the discussion to the planning session for Parks Commission? Okay, let's do that.
Thank you.
Okay, and that gets us to our two items. We need the statutory, does anyone have that?
For the county manager, the
It's a different
statutory,
statutory section. I look it up. Oh, you've got it.
there is the quote, yes, I do.
Okay, so the board at this point will go into executive session under 4230-110-1G to evaluate qualifications of an applicant for public employment. And then that is estimated to be how much time?
Half hour at the most.
Okay, 30 minutes there, and then, well, we only have 30 minutes till this meeting's supposed to end. And then we have another executive session under 4230-110-1I to discuss with legal counsel representing agency matters relating to agency enforcement actions or to discuss litigation or potential litigation which the agency governing body or member acting in official capacity is or likely to become a party when public knowledge regarding the discussion is likely to result in an adverse legal or financial consequence to the agency regarding Carrot Timber parcel. That is also on for 30 minutes. So that's an hour's worth of stuff.
So we could probably do the personnel in 15, depending on the length of discussion of the board.
Does anyone have a hard stop at 12:15? Okay.
I
don't
have
know
an
the
event
others,
that
so-
I had to go to, but I'm already late, so. it's fine.
I'm already late too, so.
You guys wanna?
So 20 minutes and 20 minutes, or?
Yeah.
Sure.
Let's try with 20 and 20, so 40
County
minutes.
Manager, if I may interject, just a procedural issue on the execs. It was noticed on the agenda as a regular open meeting item. Now, you have authority to amend the agenda since it's a regular scheduled meeting, but what I would recommend, just to be on the safe side, is just to call an amendment to turn that item into an executive session on the record.
So the board has been advised in the past that they can call an executive session at any time in any regular meeting.
This is true, but I think in this instance, it's probably worthwhile to call that out, given the fact that it's, the subject matter, was put out prior in the agenda is something different. It's one thing to be in the middle of a subject matter and then turn it into an executive session. And again, not to say that you don't have authority to do so. My recommendation is just to quickly call a vote, make sure it's clean, and then move forward.
Okay, just for time's sake, I would move to amend the agenda for the county manager and move it into an executive session per the RCW the chair mentioned.
We're allowed to make a motion like that?
Apparently so.
I wasn't allowed to make a motion earlier in the meeting.
Right, well, that's, right, because it's not your regular.
Precluded from decision-making without public input.
But this is an amending of an agenda, and we've amended agendas before. An agenda
On the
setting.
fly, and it's in the middle of the regular meeting. I think you're fine making this vote, commissioners. I just recommend doing it as a conservative measure and making sure we're cleaning, making sure that you all are voting on the agenda.
I'll second.
A motion and a second to move the item 6.1 into an executive session. Amend the agenda to do that. Is any discussion?
No, sir.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you,
That'll work.
council.
Great.
Thank you so much for being here.
We get it.
Have you heard that before?
We get it.
Which would be
It's 12:15 PM on January 30th, 2024. Board of County Commissioners coming out of the two executive sessions that were previously laid forth, and we do have potential action to take. Is there a motion that a board member would like to make?
I move that we support the prosecuting attorney in his request to pursue litigation regarding the Carrot Timber sale as a co-complainant.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to support the prosecuting attorney moving forward as co-plaintiff on the Carrot Timber parcel proposed litigation. Any discussion? Commissioner Edwards.
I just think that it's unfortunate that we have to get in, to take any kind of legal action in working with the DNR, because they just haven't followed through the way they said they were gonna follow through, and kind of forcing our hand is the way I'm seeing this. It's just, it's unfortunate. That's all I can say, but sometimes you get put in a position.
Any other comments? Call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you to the prosecuting attorneys, Kuhnheim and Travis Burns, for being here.
Do these get turned back in?
We can collect those, or
I'll collect those just to.
Well, I never got a chance to read all of it in detail.
Morning meeting, 12:16, we're adjourned.
Council.
You gotta be quick around here.
Get the final version very soon.
All done? All done, we're adjourned.
Thank you for the time today. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here, John.